Good morning. Like she said, I'm Audrey, so I'll share a little bit about me, and then I want to share with you my testimony from over the past, a little over a year. So this is my third year in CBS. Last year I had the privilege of being one of the core group leaders, and this year you see me up here on the worship team. I have a wonderful husband, 4 kids from the ages of 28 down to 10. I have a son-in-law and a grandson, so I'm a Mimi. So life is busy and full, but I want to share with you my testimony from over the past about 14 months. So back in January of 2023, as I was praying over my word of the year, do any of you guys do a word of the year each year? I love to just pray over, like, Lord, what is this year going to look like for me? I've been doing that for about 10 years. So in January of 23, he gave me the word surrender. I was like, cool, that is like a big word. And I felt like that meant, I'm going to surrender to whatever God calls me to do this year. Maybe Beth is going to ask me to teach. I hope not. But whatever he asked me to do, I'm going to do it. I was ready. What I didn't expect it to look like was a rash. Yep, a rash. So instead of these big plans that I had, I started out my year with an itch on my leg that would not heal. In the beginning, of course, I didn't think much of it. Why would you? But it refused to heal. It refused to heal, and the itch was relentless. Then the rash started to break out other places. It was down my arms. The itch was so bad that I would bleed from scratching. I would sleep with a brush. I tried all the anti-itch ointments, all the creams that the doctors prescribed, and nothing gave me relief. The rash continued to spread to almost all parts of my body. The itching became so bad that I would take several Benadryl at night, and I would place ice packs all over my body just so I could fall asleep, to numb the itching, only to wake up when the ice started to melt. So this went on for months, sleepless nights, scratching until I bled, wearing long pants and long sleeve shirts in 90 degrees and 1,000% humidity. I've seen every kind of doctor, spent thousands of dollars on treatments, blood tests, replacing HVAC units, air purifiers, medications, herbal supplements, elimination diets. The list goes on and on. No relief, 0 answers. Is this what surrender looks like? And then somewhere in the middle of this, the Lord asked me to pull my kids out of their school and homeschool them full time. This is not what I was expecting and completely out of left field. So much for my grand ideas of surrendering. So meanwhile, this rash never lets up. I told myself things could be a lot worse. It's just a rash. And honestly, other than that, I felt fine. I could have asked, does God even care? Does he even care about my rash? Does he care that I'm suffering? I'm praying for relief. He's not answering. My friends, my family, and many of you in this room have been praying for my healing. But God seemed really silent on the subject. So I kept holding on to my word of the year, surrender. To be honest, I never questioned God. I never doubted his plan. I hated the itching and the ugliness, and of course I wanted that to end. But I always believed that God was good. I lost sleep, but I never lost my mind. Could have. Instead, I clung to him and his promises. I stayed firmly planted in his word, starting most days reading the Bible, praying and journaling, and I'm not going to cry, and waiting expectantly on the Lord. I relied on my personal relationship with Jesus and knowing his character. I was also aware that my suffering was so minor compared to a lot of yours. So who was I to complain about a rash? A year goes by. January 2024. Yes, a new word. So I'm praying over this one. I didn't get this word until about a week and maybe 2 weeks into January. And the Lord made it clear that my word was trust. Trust. Definition: to place your confidence only in God. Wasn't I already doing that? So things continued like this for a couple more months until 5 weeks ago, March 10th. I went to church that morning, and after we sang the first song, our worship pastor stopped the music, which is not what he normally does, and he said, "This morning, as I was preparing for worship, I felt like the Lord was telling me to do something different." And I was like, pins and needles, heart pounding, edge of my seat. What is it? I'm ready for it. Bring it, whatever it is. And he said, "I felt like the Lord was asking us to have a time of prayer this morning. And if you have been carrying a burden, I ask that you stand up so we can pray over you." Pretty sure I leapt out of my seat. Pretty sure. I was up. First one up, a couple other people stood up, but I was ready for it. And then I started to feel members of the congregation place their hands on me, and my body began to tremble a lot like it is right now, trembling and shaking, and I began to weep. And they prayed over me, and I really felt like I knew God was doing something in that moment. Then during the sermon, I'm sitting there and I am pulling up my pant leg to see if the rash is gone. It wasn't, but that's how sure I was. I was like, he's healed me. It's my miracle I've been praying for. In the next couple of weeks in my quiet time, God showed me a verse. John 20:29. It says, "Blessed are those who do not see and yet believe." My rash was still there, but I believed that he was healing me. So the rash wasn't immediately gone, but ever since that day, I am so happy to stand up here and tell you that my legs have healed gradually. Till this weekend, I wore shorts out in public. That's a big deal. So as I was preparing to share with you today, I again looked up the definition of surrender. Remember that awful word from a year ago? The biblical definition just rocked me. Yielding to the hands of God as he shapes us into a vessel to bring him glory. I hope that's what I'm doing this morning, and it's all worth it. Paul says in Romans 8:35-37, "Can anything ever separate us from Christ's love? Does it mean he no longer loves us if we have trouble or calamity, or are persecuted, or are hungry, or are destitute, or are in danger, or are threatened with death? No. Despite all of these things, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ who loves us." I'm so glad I got that over with. Thank you for letting me share with you this morning. Now I'm going to try to sing a song, and I'm going to bring up one of my sweet friends who has heard about every itch